Hi everyone, welcome to Tidy TV, where I bring the classroom to you. I'm Hannah John, and today I'm going to share how you can correctly address your professor and what's the exception to the rule. Stay tuned. I actually have a lot of students who come from many different walks of life and from many different cultures, and so oftentimes when it comes to addressing me, either through email or in person, there's a little bit of a variety in terms of how you address me. I would say most of the time I haven't really encountered huge issues when it comes to addressing me or when it comes to you addressing other professors, but I did want to give a little bit of a refresher on what might be the most appropriate way to address your profs. Now, I have had one or two students in the past who have addressed me by my first name. It was actually a bit of a shock. Mainly because I think I was not quite used to it or accustomed to it, and also it's probably not the best way to greet yourself initially to a professor of yours. I think part of it might be because you feel quite connected to me and perhaps less of a barrier when it comes to interacting with me, but at the same time we do want to make sure that, especially at the beginning, initial interactions, that we're keeping the right kind of protocol. There are also students who call me Dr. Jun, which is actually fine, and so this is not a terrible way to address your professors. But for me, being a PhD holder, that's fine. It's a doctor of philosophy. But there are other faculty members who might not have either the PhD distinction or some equivalent. In that case, doctor would not be the correct address. The last one that I actually get quite a bit is my first name put together with the word professor, so it would be Professor Hannah. I actually think it's kind of cute, this title, and I do have several students who have called me that via email. I don't correct them, I think, necessarily, but when it actually comes to precision when you're addressing a professor, normally you should not use the first name, but you'll be using the last name, and this will segue into the correct way to address your professors. So the correct way to address me would be Professor plus last name. So that would be Professor Jun. You would also have this for other professors within our department. For Professor Brendan Howe, you would just say Professor Howe. And for his case, it's actually quite interesting because currently he's the Dean of our Graduate School of International Studies. And so you might actually hear even colleagues addressing him as Dean Howe, as well as other students. This is also perfectly fine. When in doubt, I think that you could take cues from Harry Potter. When Harry Potter is addressing Professor Albus Dumbledore and Professor Minerva McGonagall.
Professor Dumbledore. Professor McGonagall.
I did mention that there's an exception to this rule, and there is an exception, and that exception is when your professor says that you can call him or her by another title or another name. I don't think this happens so much with students, but certainly when I meet those in industry and I'm introduced as Professor Hannah John, depending on the nature of the relationship and how closely we work together, I do often say, please call me Hannah. And I think that that makes for a much more conducive and friendly working relationship, but certainly that can also happen with former students as well. I'd love to know if you have any questions when it comes to interactions with your professors, specifically when it comes to interacting with professors when you're studying in Korea. So please leave any questions or comments below, and I'd love to get back to you. And until next time here on Tidy TV, bye!